Hey, what's going on? It's Gary from FitnessFirstNutrition.com. This is the Gary Brown Podcast. We're back for episode number 2. So please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. And let's get to it. So before we get into any stories, there's something that I kind of wanted to cover just because it's kind of an important topic, and because most people really have no idea about one of the most important things that, and they call it the American dream, so purchasing a home. I'm talking to somebody earlier, and I really just want to get this out there. I was talking to somebody earlier, and I know how much money he makes. I'm not going to say how much money he makes. I'm not going to say very much about him other than his familial circumstances. So I know how much money this guy makes. He makes a decent amount of money. He may be considered, I guess he would be considered middle class, but like lower middle class. So he wants to purchase a home. He has a wife and he has 2 children, 2.5. I'm gonna call 1.5. Not that it's half his kid, but the child doesn't live with him. I don't know what kind of support he provides for that child, but I do know that he takes care of his 2 children, lives with him, and his wife. His wife does not work. So I know what he makes, and so I'm asking him like, so what are your plans for the future? And he's telling me about more jobs that he plans on getting, but I'm speaking and let him know I'm talking about, what are you planning on doing as far as, getting a home for you and your family? Because I know that's something that he's spoken about before. Also, he does not have good credit. So we're gonna brush past that part. I've talked to him about his credit before. I don't think he's going to get his credit together. Not that I don't think he's going to make the extra effort. Eventually, his credit will come up, but he's not going to make the extra effort to have it shoot through the roof. But so we're talking about homes, and he's telling me that he wants to purchase a $300,000 home. Now, I don't really think people know. I don't really think people grasp or know what a $300,000 home is, as far as how much it'll actually cost you. So a $300,000 home, um, as we actually discussed this on the last episode, by the time you pay for the house, you will have paid, 2.5 to 3 times the amount of the house. So over the course of 30 years, you will have paid 600,000 or $900,000 for the home, somewhere in between in those ranges. And but just per month, you have to know, they call it knowing how much house you can afford, and most people don't know how much house they can afford. It's kind of hard to figure it out. Certain accountants and financial professionals, they could kind of help you with this. But as I kind of go by the 70-20-10 principle. So if you're unfamiliar with the 70-20-10 principle, is 70% goes to your essential in life. That's your rent or mortgage, your gas, electric, things of that nature. Anything that is needed for survival, and your food, things of that nature. So that's going to encompass your rent and or your mortgage, as well as your utilities, as well as your food, as well as insurance, things of that nature, things that are highly important to keeping you functioning and keeping your family functioning in the world. 20% goes towards savings. Most people are not really following that principle. That's why most people don't have any savings. This man has 0 savings. And then 10% is for your personal spending, buying liquor, or going out to eat, whatever you want to spend your money on. So that's the principles that you are supposed to live by, that will help you thrive, in the world, and create savings. And so you have something, so if an emergency happens, you're not caught off guard. You're able to take care of yourself. You're able to take care of your kids, your wife, your husband, whatever. So those are the principles. So he has no idea. He's telling me that he plans on paying $1,300 for a mortgage. I let him know that that's insane. There's no way that you're going to pay $1,300 for a mortgage unless you put down a heavy down payment. And I already told you he doesn't have any savings. And I mean, like, no savings. So he was told they had to put down 13,000 for the house. So my question then was, so how much do you want to pay a month? That's how we got to the 1,300 number. I let him know that was crazy. I looked it up. And by the time in the neighborhood that he wants to live in, because most people don't factor in the things that go into the mortgage. So when you don't put down 20% on a home, you have to pay private mortgage insurance. You have to pay the property tax on the home, which is a percentage of the value of the home. So the more that the home costs, the higher your property tax will be. And also, depending on what your locale is, their tax rate is. Like I'm in Philadelphia, the property tax rate I think is like 1.1%. Where he wants to live is 2%. So it's almost double, for his property tax compared to living in Philadelphia, which we're not gonna get to Philadelphia right now. So I think his property tax would have been like 500. His mortgage would have been 1,700. I think his private mortgage insurance is all estimated. Stuff like that is estimated. The mortgage amount is not estimated. The property tax is not estimated. Those are exact calculations. For private mortgage insurance, you pay separately. Well, not separate. It's a separate thing. So that could be more or less. And homeowners insurance can be more or less. His homeowner insurance would have been, in this scenario, $108. I find it hard to believe that it would have been anything under $108. So, and his private mortgage insurance was about $200. All added up to $25 and some change, almost $2,600. So my thing to him was, you clearly can't afford that. And his wife doesn't work. And he really just had no plan on how he was going to get the money. He just wants this home. He wants to get into this home. And that's great. And he also doesn't understand that if the value of the home goes up, the property tax goes up. Like most people don't really seem to grasp that concept. So if your house is worth $300,000 at 1% property tax, you would pay $3,000 in a year for property tax. If it goes up to $4,000, you will now pay $4,000 a year. So you have to factor these things in when you go to purchase a home, because if you don't pay the property tax, then the state will come, or city will come and take your home. You lose the home. You never really ever own a home, to be quite honest. So I mean, people need to take more time and learn about financial literacy, because people they don't know. They go out and then they end up buying these houses, and then they end up on TikTok making videos on how they regret their choices on buying a house because they just didn't understand. Also, you're responsible for everything in the house. You're responsible for the HVAC system. You're responsible for the roof. You're responsible for everything in the house. So if you're paying $2,500 for a mortgage, we just talked about Daphne, but she was renting. We talked about her in the previous episode. She was renting, but she was using every dime to pay the rent. You can't use all of your money for, at least she doesn't have to worry about, the roof or the HVAC or the plumbing backed up, or, other things that you are 100% responsible for. So I say that again to just say that, before you make a decision like that, maybe you need to speak to a professional. You can speak to me. I'm not a professional per se, but I do have a lot of knowledge and I am willing to help. So that was that. So the first thing though that we're going to get into is, I was talking to him about other jobs, and I was talking to somebody else about a job last week. And he was thinking about switching careers because he's in the manufacturing business. He, works in manufacturing, and he fears that AI will come and take his job. Okay. Now, I've had this conversation with a lot of people, and I wasn't on board at first, but now I kind of feel like AI, if we let it, it will pretty much take out the need for human beings in the work field for the most part. We have 300 million people here. We probably won't need you'll probably need maybe 1 million or 2 people to work. Like once AI gets to and robotics gets to a certain point, and I really do feel like we're heading that way, and we need to figure out some way to how this is going to work. Andrew Yang, he saw this years ago. He ran for president. I think he ran as an independent, or he may ran as a Democrat. But he saw this years ago, and he came up with the idea of a universal basic income. I wasn't a fan of it. I'm still really not a fan of it. But if you're going to pretty much take people out of the workforce, and you kind of have to introduce something like a universal basic income so that people can have some type of money, to enable to do things, because you're always going to need money. You're going to need money, or you're going to need to barter. Nothing in this world is free. So you're going to need money, or you're going to need to offer a product or service, which is, in exchange for a product or service, which is the barter system. So, before we started using cash, there was the barter system. So we would have to go to something like that, because we need less coders. At some point, we won't really need, I'm not saying we won't need coders, but we really won't need coders. You may need one person to watch over a whole department of AI. And AI is really doing all the work, and you're really just there in case something goes awry. You need that human to come in there and just offer a little touch, boom, a little sprinkle on there, fix it, and let the AI go back to doing what it does. And really, if it gets to a certain point, you may not even need that person, because you may have a overarching AI that comes in and does that. But I feel like you'll still need at least a little bit of that human touch. But most people just won't be employed. And this goes for surgeons, doctors, school teachers, truck drivers. And that's another thing. I have a lot of conversations. Another thing I was just speaking, truck drivers, because this guy was talking about going into truck driving. He wants to leave manufacturing because he's scared that AI will take over manufacturing, but they're already working on self-driving cars. They're already working on self-driving tractor trailers. And that's the industry that he chose. And this is a company that we're gonna check out right now that I was not familiar with before yesterday. So the company is called Waymo, and apparently they already have self-driving cars. I didn't know, because I'm in Philadelphia, and this doesn't exist in Philadelphia. It only exists in 4 different places. I want to say Phoenix, Los Angeles, Arizona, California, Georgia, and one other place. But it's called Waymo. So if you're in those places, then I would love to hear your experience. I've seen a couple experiences online, not this particular video, but a couple other people's experience. But this says that inside self-driving Waymo ride, as the company looks to expand to the highways. So currently they must not be approved to go on highways, but they're looking to be approved. They will at some point be. I don't know if it's going to be this year, next year, or 2 years, 5 years from now. They will be approved to go on the highways. This will disrupt Ubers, Lyfts. I want to say it can possibly, at some point, even like Uber Eats, or the food delivery systems, all this will be upended. Truck driving will be upended. All of these jobs will go away if we don't come up with a plan. I'm not really a fan of universal basic income, because I believe people should work for their money. I believe it provides a better incentive, other than people, just laying around and getting handouts. It just makes you lazy. It takes away the reward factor. You work hard, you make money. You can be proud of that. But you're just sitting there and it's a robot doing all the work, and you don't do anything. You just get money, and then you spend the money. And then how does that work with inflation? People have nothing but time on their hands. This is just craziness. But let's get into this video.
Could be no one behind the wheel. At least that's what the autonomous driving tech company Waymo is hoping. To arrive at that goal, the company has started testing its self-driving cars on fast-moving highways. For tonight's In Depth, CBS's Chris Van Cleve went along for a ride.
So we're getting on the freeway.
We're on a first drive on the freeway with no one behind the wheel. It's a glimpse into the future with Waymo, the self-driving ride-hailing service owned by Google's parent company, as it prepares to take riders on the freeway.
The car stays under the speed limit, which is 65.
Riding with us is principal software engineer Pierre Kreitman.
Freeways are critical for Waymo. That's one of the #1 requests we get from our riders.
And in some ways, it's a competitive disadvantage.
Right, today for long trips, Waymo is sometimes a bit slow to get to the destination.
Waymo already operates more than 150,000 paid driverless rides a week in Arizona and California, with plans to expand further to Austin and Atlanta in the coming months, as well as add freeway rides this year. They estimate freeway access will benefit about 1 in every 4 rides. Waymo's Jacopo Sanazzaro.
Being able to operate seamlessly on the freeway is that missing piece to being able to do everything that a human driver can do.
You can put it this way, it's definitely a step in that direction.
The freeway is so...
No, he doesn't want to say it. It's not just a step in that direction. What else can you do? Once you can hit the freeway, expressway, there's nothing that you can't do. Now, you know what? How will they work the fuel out? I guess you can work the fuel out. You can work the fuel out, yeah. You know, you go on a certain amount of trips, you know how much gas you have. You can't gas up yourself, or maybe are these electric? Well, obviously these are electric cars. Or I would assume that they're electric cars. So they would just come back to the station. A human will hook them up. You hire one person, you know, 4 people in the whole place. Hook this up, and then you do. I think they're already doing 100,000 rides or something like that, and
so important because it's all about saving time. Freeways are usually faster than surface streets, and that's huge when people are hailing a ride.
Cameras, radar, and other sensors allow the car to see a full 360 degrees.
What's the biggest challenge to getting the car to work well on the freeway?
Part of it is the speed, because the speeds are so high and the mistakes are so costly. So it's really about never making a mistake, taking cautious distances to objects in front of you, and predicting things that can go wrong.
Is that the bar, never making a mistake?
So the bar is to make as few mistakes as possible and be safer than a human driver would be.
Waymo cites its data showing in over 25 million miles driven, its cars saw 72% fewer injury-causing collisions compared to human drivers. But they are not perfect, as seen in viral videos like this one showing a Waymo accidentally driving into a parade route before safely pulling over.
Waymo run.
So by them introducing the statistics of it being 72% less accidents, at some point, they may not want you to drive your own car. They may make your car uninsurable at some point. You know, they may raise insurance rates so high because they say that, you know, most accidents are caused by humans. We don't want humans driving cars. We'll have really, really low insurance for self-driving cars. But you're not allowed to drive your car. If you're not allowed to drive your car, well, your car can already be shut off remotely. We're kind of already in a pretty crazy world. It can easily be turned. This world could easily be turned into a dystopian world. I am curious as to why. I guess I'm not curious as to why, but you know, I haven't heard of this company before, but clearly they're way ahead of Tesla, as Tesla obviously mass produces cars, you know, more so because this is specifically for ride sharing. But Tesla's full, like you still have to be alert in the car. You know, you have to be able to grab the wheel. This you do not. No one has to be able to grab the wheel. They can just the cars just want to drive. Don't touch the wheel. Just want to do everything. You sit in the back seat. I saw a video with somebody in the front seat, but clearly they are way ahead of Tesla. If you could have, you know, full self-driving with no one, they feel confident enough to not have a driver in the driver's seat to, take over malfunctions. Now, these things will malfunction. I've seen, the battery will die, and just self-drive electric cars, and the battery will die, and because everything's ran by battery, you may be stuck in the car. You may not have a way out of the car. So I don't know, how they're going to come up with a way, maybe an emergency latch or something to get out the car. And then do they teach you to, on a video beforehand, maybe you get in a car and then they show you a video of, what to do if these scenarios happen. Because you don't want something to happen, maybe the battery catches fire, a fire happens for, whatever reason. The car drives off a bridge, the car drives wherever. I seen a video, this was in India. They're following Google Maps. Google Maps took them off a bridge. Bridge wasn't completed yet, off the bridge. Now, you need to get out of the car. Cars can catch fire, they can blow up, explode. So there obviously are kinks, but they're going to figure out the kinks, and this will be a thing. And not only will it be a thing, it will be prominent and possibly the only way to travel. Or, maybe you'll have so much money that you can afford how high the insurance will be. But at some point, maybe 10 years, it'll be in my lifetime for sure. It'll be in my lifetime for sure. And it'll be in most of your lifetimes. So it's just really interesting where we're headed. We're really headed down a pretty weird path and a pretty scary path, especially if you've ever seen the movie Terminator. If you have not seen the movie Terminator, go and watch it. It's an old movie from like 1987, 89 or something like that. So Terminator 1, Terminator 2 is pretty much the same thing, except for it's called Skynet. It wasn't just called artificial intelligence. They didn't use that word, I don't believe, but it was called Skynet, and it did everything that artificial intelligence does, and it attempts to take over the world. And yeah, I mean, it looks like we could possibly be headed in that direction, but time will tell, if that's going to happen or not. But yeah, I can't really say I'm looking forward to any of this, but I'm gonna go over to a video that I have not watched. It's called Trump versus Elon Musk, the feud over the big beautiful bill. So this is by the Clear Tax Investor. Is that his? Oh, Clear Value Tax. So recently, Elon Musk took a shot at Trump. Trump responded. Elon went on a whole Twitter figures thing, and we are where we are. Elon Musk has since walked some of the stuff back, but they're saying it's over this bill. So I am interested as to what he's going to say, and I'll give my commentary on it.
Musk are fighting over the tax and spending bill, or the official name is the One Big Beautiful Bill. So let me know if you're Team Elon or Team Trump or neither, but I want to bring you up to speed on what is going on. So in a nutshell, President Trump and Elon Musk, they went from best friends to hostile with one another, and their relationship really started to fall apart when Elon Musk said this on June 3rd. "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." So essentially, Elon Musk is saying that he's upset with President Trump's bill because, of course, Elon Musk wants to cut government spending with Doge. And Elon is saying that Trump's spending bill is going to make the federal deficit situation even worse than it is right now. And then Musk wrote this the next day on June 4th. He said that it more than defeats all the cost savings achieved by the Doge team at great personal cost and risk.
Moving this summer? Pods is the most awarded container moving company. Pods brings the container to you.
Okay, now I want to show you.
So far, before he gives his take, I'll give my take. So far, one of the things that Doge promised was that they were going to cut government spending, and that sounded great. and blah, 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 all these promises, and we were going to pay down the debt. We currently pay $2 trillion a year in just the interest on the debt. The debt is at $36 trillion. And when I say we, it's we because although we didn't borrow the money, people who we elected have borrowed the money, and we owe the money. That's just what it is. We're $36 trillion in debt. The only reason that we are still in the situation we are is that people do business in dollars. If people ever stop doing business in dollars, we are cooked. We're done. We're finished. This has gotten, I think, in 1998, maybe, no, 1999, somewhere in that range. Whenever Bill Clinton was president, we had a surplus. We went from a surplus to which means you have more money at the end of a fiscal year than you owe. So we went from that to owing $36 trillion. And that's been from Bush to Obama to Biden. I'm sorry, from Bush to Obama to Trump to Biden and now to Trump again. Everybody's added on to the $36 trillion. So everybody had a part in it. But this time, Trump promised that he was going to try to lessen the debt, relieve the debt, pay down the debt. He was going to come up and he was going to cut government spending. He did that. He made a big splash. They made a big splash. They started, defunding, homosexual Sesame Street commercials in Iran and just a whole bunch of weird stuff. They saved billions of dollars, but did they really save billions of dollars? No, because Trump, before he got in, said he was going to cut defense spending. Defense spending or Pentagon spending is the very highest amount of money that we spend. The Pentagon can't pass an audit, which means they can't tell you where all of the money went. And he took the amount that they get and he's pledging to give them even more money. He's pledging to give them $1 trillion, which no one has ever done. They couldn't pass it with audit with $800 billion, $700 billion. Their budget used to be $200-300 billion. No one can explain why we need so much extra money. But, Trump promised us something different, but it's really more of the same with a little twist. Like he does little small things. And that's what really all politicians do. They give you little nuggets, and then, they play their big boy games aside. So you get, some crumbs here, you eat that and we'll eat the steak and lobster over here. We'll break that down. I'll figure out how I can look out for these guys. And you wouldn't expect that because really that comes with the whole ulterior motive most of the time, which is how the presidents always end up so rich when they leave office. We're not going to really get into that right now. It's a whole big rabbit hole. But with him coming in with money, I just assume, and most people assume that, maybe he would do something real. He's not really doing that. He's not only not cutting the spending, he's trying to spend more. He wants to build a dome to block missiles that we're not, we have no threat of any immediate danger, and he wants to build a dome like they have in Israel, which will cost $175 billion, which erases all of the money that they have saved through Doge. And that makes no sense because he's saying that he wanted to be a non-intra. He didn't want to intervene. The way that he pronounced the word is eluding me, but he's saying a non-interventionist. So he was saying that that's what we're supposed to be. I rooted for that. We should not be in other people's wars. We don't have any, personal beef with any other countries ourselves. Why would we need a dome to block bombs and missiles? And there's a big ocean. If we did have a problem with anybody, you have Mexico there, you have Canada there, and then it's an ocean on both sides. we have no enemies directly close to us. It's ridiculous. It's just more contractors getting money. It's just more of the rich enriching the rich. Just more of the same. I don't think Kamala Harris would have been any different. Joe Biden would have been any different. It's just really a cabal. It's just a bunch of people, and they're all at the top, and then they just play us for fools and steal our money and our labor. But let's go.
How President Trump responded to this, what he said on June 5th, the next day. So please take a look.
I'm very disappointed because Elon knew the inner workings of this bill better than almost anybody sitting here, better than you people. He knew everything about it. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden he had a problem. And he only developed the problem when he found out that we're going to have to cut the EV mandate, because that's billions and billions of dollars. And it really is unfair. We want to have cars of all types. Electric, we want to have electric, but we want to have a gasoline, combustion. We want to have different. We want to have hybrids. We want to have we want to be able to sell everything. And when that was cut, and Congress wanted to cut it, he became a little bit different. And I can understand that. But he knew every aspect of this bill. He knew it better than almost anybody. And he never had a problem until right after he left.
Okay, and then Elon.
So I'm in favor of all cars. I'm in favor of competition. If you want to buy an electric car, buy an electric car. You want to buy a hybrid, that's a mix of gasoline and electric. You buy that. You want to buy gasoline, you buy gasoline. I didn't like how they were forcing companies to phase out gasoline cars. I don't want an electric car. The shelf life is not that good. The charging, if you live in the city, you really don't. Where are you gonna hook your charger up to? When it gets really cold outside, it's a battery, so it may not even start. But if it does start, you'll get less fuel efficient. Well, it's not really, I guess technically fuel. You'll get less mileage that you can actually drive it. So to me, it's just not for me, but that's what they're trying to do, force every company to make. Also, we don't really have what it takes. I don't even know, if it's enough material to even make, all those cars electric, because it's a special minerals that it requires. Neither here nor there. So now the $7,500 credit that has been taken away, I'm in favor of that being taken away, because you call it a credit, but at the end of the day, it's really the taxpayers funding it. People don't ever really grasp it, but once the government says they're going to give anybody something, it's your money, it's my money, it's taxpayer money. Whether they have it through our taxes or whether they have to borrow it, because whatever we can't make. Whatever we can fund through our taxes has to be borrowed from the Federal Reserve, which is not part of the government, blah, blah, blah. And then we have to pay interest on it. One of the worst deals ever. So I'm in favor of cutting the $7,500. I'm in favor of cutting most of the spending, making a smaller government, and, getting back to, the states being more in control, and the federal government just stepping in where need be, keeping us safe from, terrorists or outside threats, inside threats. But let's go.
Elon Musk said this as a follow-up. So he basically called President Trump a liar. So Musk wrote this. He said, false. This bill was never shown to me even once and was passed in the dead of night so fast that almost no one in Congress could even read it. And then
Now, I don't know if he saw. Why would he see the bill anyway? So I don't really believe Trump in that, or maybe he did see the bill, but he shouldn't be seeing the bill. Why is he seeing the bill? He's not in Congress. He's not in the Senate. He's nobody. He's the world's richest man, but that should not play a factor in our government. So now that is a common tactic. It's done by Democrats. It's done by Republicans. It's pretty much the status quo. They will have 1,000-page bill, and then they'll give it to you the night before, and then everybody will just sign it, and then it'll have random spending. I went through one of the bills one time and I saw they gave like $20 million to sunscreen research. So that's what really annoys me about Trump is the going along with the status quo, where he has good points where he's different, but then he does the big things like this where he's not different, and it's a bloated bill. But let's go.
Same day, we get a string of posts from Elon Musk saying things like this: "Without me, Trump would have lost the election. Dems would control the House and the Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate."
So Elon Musk has gone Trump on Trump. That sounds like something Trump would say. He has said it. Without me, you would have lost, and blah blah blah. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not.
Such ingratitude. And then Musk goes on to say this the same day to explain his reasoning.
I think that we've got this enormous federal budget deficit, and it's a $2 trillion deficit. It keeps growing. Our interest payments are higher than our Defense Department budget. That's I think was the real wake-up call for me, was looking at seeing that the interest payments on national debt exceeded the Defense Department budget. And that was only growing over time, which meant if we didn't do something about this, then there won't be any money for anything. We'll just be servicing debt.
And you know how to read an income statement, and you know how to read a balance sheet. You've had some business experience. I'm kidding, but
yeah,
you know about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, really, I just don't want America to go bankrupt.
So it's a call to action. You're hearing a call to
America is already functionally bankrupt. We just haven't declared bankruptcy, but we're kind of bankrupt.
action.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could say that Elon Musk is basically giving a call to action to stand against President Trump's bill. And of course, that's bad time, very bad timing, and very upsetting to President Trump.
Our water should be safe to drink, but dangerous chemicals known as PFAS have polluted water supplies across the country.
And here's why. So this one big beautiful bill by President Trump, it passed in the House of Representatives 2 weeks ago, right? But it barely passed in the House. I mean, the vote was 215 to 214. And it's going to be another very close call in the Senate. So listen, there's a real possibility that this bill's not going to get enough votes to pass in the Senate. So the situation is difficult enough, as is. And Musk giving a call to action to stand against this bill right now, that's not going to make the situation any easier in the Senate. Now, going back to the drama for a second, I got to show you this. So Elon Musk is saying that he's against President Trump's bill because it's going to increase our deficit, right? And then Trump fires back with this. So President Trump says that the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. So yeah, President Trump took it to that level. He opened up that.
So no. This is just a threat, like back up off me. This is another lame move. This is you've pissed me off and I can really piss on you. But no, that won't make a difference compared to what you're doing. The amount of money you plan on spending already.
Box. So they're not holding back. Okay, now according to the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, President Trump's big beautiful bill is going to make the deficit worse. So the CBO is projecting that it's going to add $2.4 trillion to the deficit over the next decade. And the expectation is that it's not going to happen evenly. So in other words, more of the deficit is going to be front loaded. So as you can see, this is the projection from the CBO. So I'll tell you this. So adding $500 billion more to the deficit each year in the next 3 years, I'll tell you, that is a lot. The expected deficit this year is going to be about $2 trillion. And then if you bump that up to $2.5 trillion, next year as a baseline, then it's going to be terrible. Now, I'll tell you this. So we're not going to cover what's inside this big, beautiful bill. I've already done that in my previous video 3 weeks ago. So the status update is that the politicians are still working on trying to pass this bill in the Senate. Their self-imposed deadline to pass this in the Senate is by July 4th. Now, the question is...
That's a terrible deadline. July 4th is Why would you make it July 4th? But regardless, hopefully this does not pass the Senate. This will not be good. It won't be good for anything. It's going to be a lot of wasteful spending in there, just like every other bill. Again, just pretty much like every other president to this point. But let's get into, since we're already on the Trump topic, maybe we get into Trump. We're going to talk about we're going to talk about the riots in California. So first we'll get into what Donald Trump had to say about the protesters. It'll be really short.
And handing big pieces of granite, in some cases it's granite and concrete to other people, and they're running out with it. And then we watch the other people and they try and throw it into the face of the soldiers, throw it into the face of the police, and they hurt some people very badly. They go up on bridges, they drop it down on the cars as the cars are moving. They're not breaking the curb because they're doing a demolition service. They're breaking it to hand out to people as a weapon. It's bad stuff. I've never seen that before.
I'm at the last resort.
So paid protesters is a thing. I first heard about paid protesters. I probably really heard about it from like maybe Alex Jones, maybe a lot of years ago. But I really heard it from around the George Floyd, when everybody was doing those protests, on the riots in the streets around 2020. And there were reports of people saying in my city that, it was just a bunch of bricks lined up, just so happening to be placed so that people can throw them through things. And I was just watching a video earlier of a black woman, and she says that she joined the BLM thing, and she was there for, was it Ferguson? Was it Trayvon Martin, George Floyd? I don't know. During one of those, she was there, and she said that she was a paid protester. She got paid and saw other people there and dealt with them to be a protester and, be a rabble rouser, to cause issues. So that is a real thing. It's pretty disgusting and disturbing, but that is an actual thing. It's an actual job. You can be paid to do it. And, it's just not the first instance I've heard of it. Look up paid protesters when you get a chance and, see what you come up with. So we have Gavin Newsom. He is the governor of California. He had a response to Donald Trump deploying the National Guard. Now, I'm not a fan of militarization personally, but if it's warranted, then it's warranted. And the thing is that if you can't contain the rioting and the protesting and keeping it from becoming violent, then, unfortunately, the federal government has to get involved because, they're just destroying things. They're blowing up cop cars, regular cars. They're throwing bricks to places. They're looting stores. They're blowing up regular cars. I'm pretty sure it has to be hard to drive through the city for people who have to go to work. Do you want to go to work? Is your business closed? It's so much that's happening to regular citizens. And actually, before I get into the Gavin Newsom one, I'm going to go to this Maxine Waters. Now, this is Maxine Waters right here. Maxine Waters is about to turn that gaslight on as somebody fused a video of what's going on in the streets of California with her talking and basically lying as she typically does. You can't trust the Californians, not the government in California. The mayor is terrible in LA. Maxine Waters is terrible. Gavin Newsom, terrible.
And even those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot, nobody was killed. Get it in your head. And so when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street. I know. And I went from downtown detention back out into the community, talking to people what happened in Paramount, what happened in Compton, what happened in Inglewood. So, first of all, get it straight and don't just rely on what you're being told or the few incidents that you saw. And even those who were...
Oh, obviously, this is more than a few incidents. It's a lot of occurrences, not just instances. There's a lot of occurrences. And they're really damaging stuff. They're really hurting people. Let's get into Gavin Newsom.
This is a CBS News special report. I'm Jesse Mitchell in New York. Right now, a fifth night of protests against immigration raids is underway in Los Angeles. In the last 24 hours, President Donald Trump deployed 700 Marines to join the more than 4,000 California National Guard troops in the city. Tonight, Governor Gavin Newsom is delivering a major address. Let's go now to the governor's speech.
Kids afraid of attending their own graduation. Trump is pulling a military dragnet all across Los Angeles, well beyond his stated intent to just go after violent and serious criminals. His agent.
So just to start this off, so ICE was sent there to pick up illegal immigrants. It doesn't really matter if you are violent or not violent. It doesn't matter if you're a criminal or not criminal. Technically, they're all criminals. If you're an illegal, they call them undocumented now because it sounds better, but they're illegal immigrants. So if you are illegal, once you illegally cross into the country, you broke a law. It doesn't matter if it takes 5 years, 10 years, and I'm if you've been a nice person since you've been here, you got to go back to where you came from. I fully support that. And that may include Elon Musk.
Agents are arresting dishwashers, gardeners, day laborers, and seamstresses. That's just weakness masquerading as strength. Donald Trump's government isn't protecting our communities. They're traumatizing our communities. And that seems to be the entire point. California will keep fighting. We'll keep fighting on behalf of our people, all of our people, including in the courts. Just yesterday, we filed a legal challenge to Donald Trump's reckless deployment of American troops to a major American city.
So they were deployed again because the ICE agents were being attacked. Then they started attacking the police, and they have no support from the governor, from the mayor. So the federal government has to step in.
Today, we sought an emergency court order to stop the use of the American military to engage in law enforcement activities across Los Angeles. If some of us could be snatched off the streets without a warrant, based only on suspicion or skin color, then none of us are safe. Authoritarian regimes begin by targeting people who are least able to defend themselves, but they do not stop there. Trump and his loyalists, they thrive on division because it allows them to take more power and exert even more control. And by the way, Trump, he's not opposed to lawlessness and violence as long as it serves him. What more evidence do we need than January 6th? Ask everyone. Take time, reflect on this perilous moment. A president who wants to be bound by no law or constitution, perpetuating a unified assault on American traditions, This is a president who in just over 140 days has fired government watchdogs that could hold him accountable for corruption and fraud. He's declared a war on culture, on history, on science, on knowledge itself. Databases, quite literally, are vanishing. He's delegitimizing news organizations, and he's assaulting the First Amendment. And the threat of defunding them, he's dictating what universities themselves can teach. He's targeting law firms and the
I don't know if he's dictating what universities can teach. He has an issue with Harvard for DEI. I don't know if he has an issue with any of the actual curriculum.
the judicial branch that are the foundations of an orderly and civil society.
And I have an issue with Harvard and many of these places, not having to pay taxes anyway. So this is outside of Trump. This is outside. I didn't even know until this thing happened between Trump and Harvard that they were tax exempt. When they make millions and millions and millions of dollars, they're clearly for profit, but they don't have to pay any taxes. That's ridiculous.
He's calling for a sitting governor to be arrested for no other reason than to, in his own words, for getting elected. And we all know this Saturday, he's ordering our American heroes, the United States military, and forcing them to put on a vulgar display to celebrate his birthday, just as other failed dictators have done in the past. Look, this isn't just about protests here in Los Angeles. When Donald Trump sought blanket authority, commandeer the National Guard, he made that order apply to every state in this state. And this is about all of us. This is about all of us. Our eyes, this moment has arrived.
All right. I don't know what happened there, but Los Angeles is in chaos. It's being burnt down to the ground. We need law. It cannot be lawless. If ICE comes there to pick people up, they can't be attacked. If they're attacked, then the people who are attacking them needs to go to jail. If I break a law and whatever police organization comes down here to come get me, and my neighbors start throwing stuff at them or stopping them from getting me, or they tip me, even if they tip you off, you're obstructing justice, you're aiding and abetting. These are crimes, so we have to keep that in mind, that you have to let the ICE, whether you like it, don't like it, whatever, you have to let the ICE agents do their job. You don't let them do their job, okay, well, you have to deal with the consequences. The city is not really enforcing any consequences, or they've lost control. Everything is being burnt down. The police are being violently attacked. So someone has to step in. I'm sorry. I hate for the military to be involved in such things, because they really have no place in the streets of America. They don't. But it's the last resort. So anyway, so we're going to get into the last topic, which will be, it's a story from Philadelphia. A couple said that I've never heard of this before. I've never seen this before. They were eating dinner, and the lady was actively being robbed while they were eating dinner, and she had no idea. So please be careful, and please pay attention to your surroundings, because it can apparently happen to you.
In Manioc, two people casually sitting inside of Mia Ragazza on Main Street, managing to swipe hundreds of dollars in cash and credit cards. The victim didn't realize this until it was too late. Action News reporter Jessica Curtalia spoke with the woman who fell victim to this scheme. She joins us live there outside that restaurant with the details. This is not something you want to happen to you, Jessica.
No, not at all. Incredibly frustrating. A fun night out with friends definitely went south. And Gray, I can tell you that restaurant owners here in Manioc say this is becoming all too familiar. It happens every couple of months.
Well, hello, ladies in front of me.
31-year-old Inga Merrick and her roommates were out for a fun night in Manioc.
Oh, we're just enjoying happy hour, and I get a credit card alert.
Someone had tried to swipe her credit card on a $500 purchase at Target.
All three of my credit cards are missing.
This is security footage from inside Mia Ragazza, where Merrick and her friends were sitting. Watch as a man and woman sit down behind them. He hangs his jacket on the back of his chair. A few minutes later, he reaches behind.
Not his first time. That is pretty brazen. I don't know if he has that much confidence, because they're all women and men sometimes act different. you know, when there's all women around, as opposed to there being a male figure around who may possibly hurt them. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it. It more than likely had something to do with it. But let's go.
Behind his back as though he's grabbing something from his jacket pocket, but he actually reaches into Merrick's purse and pulls out.
Why is nobody looking around? Like, what is going on? For multiple men, like nobody has, just heads are down. My head is always on the swivel. I don't trust nobody. I don't trust nothing. I don't trust nobody. My head is always looking around, seeing what's going on. I always check my pockets. I need to make sure all my items are still there. But I get it, you know, women may not have, you know, as much care, you know, they're pretty carefree. So
Her wallet. He sits for a few more minutes, moving cards and cash from her wallet to his. Then the two tell their waiter they were in the wrong restaurant. They get up and walk out.
Police are always welcome to come in and check our cameras for everything.
Brenda McGrew is a partner at Voracious Hospitality, the group that owns Mia Ragazza and Goat's Beard in Mania.
From talking with the police, we always hear that it's two people that are around town that do the crime, and then there's other people waiting at a store. Usually they target off city line just because it's a really busy store, and there's somebody in the store waiting with a cart.
A special ed teacher at a public school in Philly, Merrick had recently won a raffle for a PlayStation. She just sold the gaming equipment before meeting her friends. She says she was planning to use that money on things for her classroom.
Who's going to carry around $400, you know, but it was straight from that to here.
Merrick's friends say they were shocked the theft took place inside and so quickly.
They were so quick. We watched the video back and it was 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
And restaurant owners say that they have a group.
3 minutes and 30 seconds is fast, but it's not fast at the same time. And no point in 3 minutes did nobody look around, like nobody looked back in 3 minutes. He is smooth because they didn't feel nothing. Like you ain't, because you know, I'm assuming the bag is on or maybe it must have been in her pocket, but it's still on a chair. So if it's on a chair, ain't nothing rattle around where you felt like a little tap on the chair that something was being ruffled or messed with. That's crazy. He's a GOAT. Lock his ass up, but he's good. That boy good.
Text thread, so when something like this happens, they all let the other restaurants know so they can be on the lookout. Police say they have not made any arrests in this case. We're live in Manayunk. I'm Jessica Cartalia for Action News at 10 on PHL 17. Shari.
Yeah, it's a reminder for all of us. We like to go out and have a good time also. Got to stay alert. Yeah. All right, Jessica, thanks.
First, we offer over
everything. I will see if we have any update on the Puffy trial from my favorite guy before we go, or my second favorite person. Got nothing right here. Go to the other one. Boom. Be really shy. It must not be nothing going on if neither one of them have uploaded. That's from 5 hours ago. There's nothing really going on. All right, cool. So this was Gary Brown Podcast, episode number 2. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Head over to fitnessfirstnutrition.com if you are serious about improving your health, if you're serious about losing weight or gaining muscle, or just being a better version of yourself. I can help you over there. Other than that, I can see you guys on the next episode.